right, it's 9:18. We're headed down into the cellar where the doors just opened on its own. Give us a sign that you want to communicate with us.
Broadcasting from the darkest corners of the Pacific Northwest, this is Transcendence.
Now you will receive us. Do not ask for your food or you're hungry. We do not want your tired and sick.
It is your corrupt we claim.
It is your evil that will be sought by us.
With every breath, we shall hunt them down.
The power of Christ compels you. The power of Christ compels you. The power of Christ compels you.
Out of my way. People have to be told.
You know I can't let you do that.
What are you guys?
Well, we've been called ghost hunters, paranormal researchers.
But we prefer to be known simply as
Emma Strange and Charlieripley.
Hello, my spooky dudes. Welcome to September. I'm Emma Strange.
And I'm Charlieripley.
And today we're going to be talking about religion, which I know may seem kind of weird on a paranormal podcast where we talk about all things spooky and ooky. But one of the top questions that we get is, how do a pagan and a Catholic live together? So how does that work?
That in itself is supernatural.
Yeah, so we're going to be talking a little bit about that and some of the similarities and stuff in our practice and how we do what we do. And I think a good place to start is kind of where we both started with religion, right? Because you didn't start out Catholic, just like I didn't start out pagan.
Right.
So go ahead. Yeah, let's
you want to jump right into it?
Yeah,
okay.
Go ahead.
Well, I think I've talked about it at some point before, but essentially I grew up in a household that didn't really push any religion, and I tried out Christianity, and I was so on it. I wasn't a very good practitioner, and as I got older, I really felt it was important to me to be a well-rounded, good citizen. I felt like religion was something that I needed to round myself out, as we've been talking about a lot recently about anger and things like that. It was something that I went through as a teenage boy and going into 21, 22, a very angry person. And religion is kind of the antithesis to that. So I decided to try everything. How can you know what's right for you unless you try it? Also, I tried Satanism, I tried Buddhism, I tried different forms of Christianity. I just went down a list and tried everything out to try and find what would fit me the best. And Catholicism was the one that really stuck. It was the one that made the most sense to me, the one that felt the most right.
Yeah, and for me, my family's Lutheran. So the dominant side of my family, who is Norwegian, the Lutheran gene runs long. And so I was baptized Lutheran in Seattle. And for the better part of my life, we went to a Lutheran church. We celebrated all your typical Christian holidays, Lutheran holidays. But I have always been pulled to something more magical, for lack of a better term. And my dad was always into more mystical stuff. My mom, not so much. But so I was always kind of pulled in that direction also. And my mom really didn't like the Wicca stuff. My dad bought me my first spell book from a little metaphysical shop up in Seattle, and which I wish I could remember the name of now, but I don't. It was been so long ago. And I loved it. Felt like I was learning so much. It felt like this mystical, magical thing that I felt like I was a part of but wasn't supposed to have. And I brought that home. My mom didn't like it. She took it away. And I'm a kid, though. I ended up getting it back. And I ended up just not doing that for a while because it just wasn't accepted in my family. And so I took a Middle Eastern religions class in college, and we covered Hinduism and Buddhism and a lot of religions over in the Middle East. And for me, Buddhism really sounded like something that was meant for me at the time. And for a while, that's what I did. We celebrated Bodhi Day. I mean, you did for a while too. We were both kind of on that.
Yeah, I did Bodhi Day.
Different ends of that wavelength when we tried it, but it never felt something that was whole to me, if that makes sense. So it never really fit. So I eventually came back around to Wicca, and for a while I considered myself an eclectic pagan, eclectic Wiccan, which basically means that you kind of cherry pick parts of different spiritual paths and just kind of create your own thing. It was just one of those things where like it was a better fitting puzzle piece, but it still didn't fully fit. And I eventually started looking into different branches of paganism that I felt like were more of a home for me. And I eventually settled on Norse paganry, or Azatrue, and I know that I'm pronouncing that wrong probably. I've never actually looked up the proper spelling, which I know I should. But I eventually found that, and my family is Norse, so it's weird that I didn't pick it up sooner. But I fell on that, and that's what I do now. I follow heathenry and trying to be better at it. Wicca or paganism, and any religion is very much a living, breathing thing, and you have to work at it every day, and you're learning every day. So,
well, that's what really actually pushed me away from Buddhism and Satanism. And in this episode, we wanted to talk about dispelling beliefs. So let's dispel a couple quick beliefs about Satanism. There's a lot of different branches of Satanism. Not everyone is, quote, devil worshipping Satanists. In fact, there's some non-theistic Satanists that just believe in self-worship. And that's the path I was trying to go down. And it's just going to sound weird, but both Buddhism and Satanism to me were too easy, if that makes sense. Like,
no.
for me, religion is something, like you said, you got to work at it every day, right? Being a Catholic, my job every day is to be better than I was yesterday. Every day I'm supposed to be more patient, more kind, more loving, and shape myself in the image of God. But in like Satanism, from as little as I practiced, so excuse me, I didn't get very far into it, but a lot of it just seemed to be self-worship. So it wasn't about necessarily improving yourself. It was about accepting yourself and loving yourself. And then if you wanted to improve those things, you did that for yourself and for no other reason.
See, that's not the impression I got from it. I thought it was very much the opposite, where you have this temple, like your body's this temple, and that you should worship it, meaning that you try to take care of it. So you try and make sure that you have all the therapy that you need for your mental health, and then you're working out, you're eating right, you're putting good things into your body to take care of the temple, aka your physical body. That's what I got from it, but I don't know.
And that very well could be too. Like I said, I did a little bit of research and I tried it, and it just, I didn't feel like it was about as much self-improvement as it was about self-accepting, self-love, and self-care, which is all good things. You need all those, but that wasn't what I wanted to get out of it. I already have too much self-love. I'm called a narcissist too often, so it just wasn't a good fit for me in that area.
So,
the number one question.
How do we do that? And we'll get into the stereotypes for each of our different paths in a bit, but how does a pagan and a Catholic live together when, at least on your end, Catholics believe that I should be in hellfire? So how tell me how you view it. I mean, for me, it's pretty easy. It's just respect, right? And
that's the big thing. A key thing for us that really helps us, that I think makes a difference in our relationship that others may not have, was that we didn't come into each other with religion, right? We found it at different points in our lives, and so it wasn't something that we brought into the relationship. So it would be really unfair for us to hold each other to different standards that came along at a much later date. So that's one of the factors, but the biggest one is, like you said, is respect, and we try and let each other have our time to do whatever we need to do. In fact, this year I'm going to help Emma celebrate Maybon. I went and got her some wine and meads and stuff, and partake in. It's an important part of who we are, and so you need to be able to share that with your partners. So yes, there's many Christians, many Catholics who would turn up their nose at associating with someone who is a heathen or doesn't believe with them. But, that's, I guess I just don't believe in that. I think our new pope or old pope or whatever you want to call him, he's fairly old, when he was asked about homosexuality, he said, "Who am I to judge?" It's kind of the same thing. I can't judge you for your religion. We have different religion. It came at a different time in our lives, but that doesn't mean I love you any less. That doesn't mean I can't spend time with you or things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Some people let those labels get in the way of each other, and I think that defeats the purpose of any religion if you start segregating yourself away from everyone else.
It's such a cool thing to be able to grow with a person like that, though. And I know so many, well, I don't know, but I see a lot of people who do that, and they, instead of, going in that direct parallel line together, they just go that way, and they can't meet back in the middle, and it's super sad, but it's also pretty amazing when you get to evolve with somebody like that. And
we don't believe in evolution. Change your words, please.
I mean, there are parts I can see how that happens. Anyway, it's pretty simple. People always expect this big how to do when they're like, well, hey, you're pagan, he's Catholic. How do you do that? It's not really that difficult. So I don't know. It's not a hard thing for me. I mean, when I know when you were first branching into Satanism, I wasn't super educated in it, and so I had all these preconceived notions about what it was too. And even when I was an eclectic pagan, I still had these nuanced stereotypes that I had grown up with. Devil worshipping. I was like, yeah, scary. Don't like that. And then I was like, well, I actually don't know too much about it. And then I went and bought Anton LaVey's book and did some other source reading. And yeah, it's really not what we think it is at all.
I think also a big thing is having a good sense of humor about it. I mean, there's lots of things that the Catholic Church has been in the news for, and other things that people make memes out of, and
same thing for pagan,
same thing for paganism. So it's okay to poke fun at it as long as we're both being respectful of each other and having a good humor about it. So I think that really helps too.
Right, recently, TikTok, a whole bunch of baby witches were trying to hex the moon, hex the fae, hex the sun. Curse the moon. I don't fucking know. Yeah, we got them both on either side. So, so when you think a Catholic, I really don't have any preconceived notions about Catholicism other than the icky choir boy priesthood thing, and that Catholics are usually the ones you see perceived in any kind of demonic possession media type things.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, other than that, no. Yeah, those are really the only two things that I have personally. But
well, it depends on where you're at, because a lot of people see Catholics as pagans, the worshiping saints and altars, and they have all these crazy prayers and the rosary and these other things. So it kind of depends on where you're from, but it's weird that Christianity and Catholicism are the same in the aspects of that they both are about Christ, but even Christians will be like, oh no, I'm a Christian, I'm not a Catholic. There's a very big difference, and Catholics are the same way. They're like, no, I'm Catholic, I'm not Christian. Then they segregate themselves. So there's definitely a stigma with it depending on which group you belong to. Mm-hmm. But it's definitely not as bad as the pagan/witch community, because you've got all the stereotypes oh, they're green, wart-ridden, they ride around on the broomsticks and cast spells. Or you've got, God help us all, when Sabrina the Teenage Witch came out, you've got, oh, they're all, fucking the devil and casting spells. And
yeah, we mean new age Sabrina, not old age Sabrina, where it was more kitschy and cute. The new Sabrina is a little more, they try to make it sexy, which is part of the chorus for CW. But
and then the worst stereotypes with, as Wicca has become more, quote, mainstream and become a little bit more accepted and popular in society, you've got all the people who jump on it, who drive around talking about how they drink a Starbucks latte to recharge their crystals and things like that, they've done zero educational work on it, but they want to associate themselves ooh, I'm a witch.
No, that's new agey performative spirituality, I guess is what you would call it. I don't know, the whole chakra yoga thing, I don't know. You know what I'm talking about. But one of the big ones that I see a lot of is that pagans are scary and mean and evil and all of these negative, terrible things, and every single pagan I know is like literally I'm baby. Like they're just the softest, most wholesome people I've ever met in my life. So I don't even know where that stereotype comes from.
I have the answer to that. Have you watched Vikings or Black Flag or any of those shows about, you know, those heathenistic Vikings running around and destroying everyone?
Well, I mean, yeah, but like Wiccans generally they oppose the harm of basically any living thing. We don't like to hurt people. We don't seek harm. Wicca specifically holds the law of three, which basically entails the Christian version of the golden rule, kind of. So like whatever a person wishes upon someone else, like, you know, like disease or anything really that has malintent, that same kind of energy comes back on them 3 times over. So we're not doing anything mean to people because we're gonna get fucked in the long run anyway.
So if you do curse the moon, how does that come back on you?
I don't know. That is so out of my realm of understanding. It's just dumb kids doing dumb things. I don't know. I really don't even know what that would do. It's just, yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of things that the community does that I can't explain. I'm sorry. I don't know.
Well, that's the other, you know, issue with Wicca, paganism, and all that is that people kind of treat it like the paranormal, and we've talked about this before, where people treat the paranormal as their own personal fiction, so you can make up whatever you want, and it's true. So, you know, we've talked about Reddit a few times. I love going through Reddit every single day looking for questions and different things, and so many times on the pagan and occult forums, someone will ask a simple question like, hey, how do I help my mom feel better? And there'll be 1,000 answers that are 1,000 different things that some people are just, one was like rub cinnamon on your foot was their way of casting a spell. Never heard of that. I can't tell you whether or not it's a real thing, but
I don't know.
Rubbing cinnamon on your foot to help, you know, cast a magic spell on someone else. I don't know.
I don't know. There might be a cultural thing because like our family is Norwegian and Hispanic, right? So when you're sick, they typically like to wrap you in sliced potatoes. They wrap your feet in sliced potatoes. So you're basically naked in potatoes. And
that sounds like an Irish thing.
You'd think, but it's supposed to like draw the fever out, draw the toxins out. Like I remember many a time where I was really, really sick and I was covered in wet potatoes. So I don't know. Maybe cinnamon on the feet is a cultural thing. I don't know. So
is that your first stereotype on the list? Was they're mean, wicked?
Yeah, I mean, as long as we're on the lines of people, it's so what I see on Reddit and social media in general is just people treat Wicca and paganism and shamanism and everything in that path as like a joke, like because they don't believe that it's real, right? So that's a misconception because Wicca is recognized by the U.S. government as an official religion, which means we can take leave for Wiccan holidays at work. Granted, I don't know many pagans that actually do that because we don't like to advertise the fact that they're pagan because despite, you know, being a recognized religion, it's still taboo and people still hold true to a lot of negative stereotypes. So, but yeah, like if you're in the military, you can observe your stuff. Like I know a Norse pagan I just saw recently in the news didn't reserve the right to not cut his beard because that's really important. Hair is really a big deal in Norse paganism. So what about you? What's one of yours?
First one I'm going to touch on is the Pope because there's so much that goes around. There is a really famous Catholic preacher, and I'm forgetting his name right now, but essentially he says that people don't hate Catholicism. They hate what they think Catholicism in, which is all based off of wrong information.
Which is very true for paganism and Wicca as well. So
they hate the idea that's been portrayed to them, even though they've done zero research themselves. And before I get into this, I'll reiterate, I've said this a million times, you know, I'm not the best Catholic either. I'm still learning. I'm still trying to go through RCIA, the Rite of Catholic Initiation, and so my journey is still going. So this is based on what I know, but this is subject to change, of course, as I learn more. But there's a lot of preconceived notion that we either worship the Pope or that the Pope is some holy, infallible man who cannot sin, who is always right or speaks for God, and that's just, you know, not the case. In fact, a great example of this was recently the Pope apologized for pushing / hitting / slapping someone. And even though he was, in the right, we talked about that, she reached out and grabbed him and pulled down this poor old man. He was just defending himself. He said he reacted badly to that. And as a pillar of the community and someone who's supposed to be above that, he apologized. And he's just a man. He's just as fallible as anyone else.
Yeah,
so
I think people forget that he's just a man, just like us.
There is something, I believe, called the papal infallibility, but it's not just that the Pope is infallible, he can't be wrong. It's when the Pope comes together on something and all the scholars come together on something and all the bishops, when everyone agrees, then it is considered that is the canon law. When everyone's, but if the Pope says it, it doesn't make it true. In fact, the bishops or other dioceses and groups can say, no, you're wrong, and then they have a discussion around it. Just because the Pope says it doesn't mean it's the word of law. So there is checks and balances. Well, even though, in the United States we're seeing how much checks and balances actually mean, but there is checks and balances to it. We don't worship the Pope. The Pope doesn't speak for God. There's a lot to it, and he does have, a status and a symbol, and he is supposed to be an educated leader, but he's not God. He's not infallible. He's a sinner like the rest of us.
Very well said, I think. Do you want me to do one of mine, or do you want to keep
you
going?
Go and one you want.
So another top one for us: Wiccans worshiping the devil. No, we don't do that. Actually, we don't do that. In fact, like Charlie briefly touched on, even Satanists don't worship the devil unless you practice theistic Satanism. So, but Wiccans don't believe in the devil kind of in the same way we don't believe in God, unless like you're a Christian witch, because like those people do practice Christian witchery, because I don't really have a lot of experience with it, but yeah, people do that. But yeah, we don't believe in Abrahamic gods, like it's just like one, but we can't believe in the devil either, because those are all of a Christian foundation. So but like Wicca itself is typically polytheistic. You can not be, of course. It's like Wicca is very fluid. It's basically whatever path you want to go down, you go down it, whatever works for you, boo. This type of thing. But all right, let's hear it.
Well, and I just wanted to touch on that because we talked about this in last episode as well, or when we were talking about Mr. Black. You're not a huge believer in demons, and because that kind of goes along with angels and devils. In order to have demons, you have to have the devil, and you can't be like, oh, I don't believe in the devil, but I believe in demons and heaven and hell. But not, as people always like to tell Christians, you can't cherry pick. It's kind of the same thing as well. You can't say no, there's no devil, these other things. But it's also as you also mentioned, there's a lot of other sects of Wicca that do believe that they're, like you said, they are the Christian that do have the devil and all of that, but also Wicca. So there's a lot to it and a lot of learning. So
right, and there's other sects. Wow, I cannot talk today. There's other sections of Wicca and other paths that people follow that are also enrooted in other religions and other cultures where demons do exist in that line of faith also. So it's really dependent on who you are and what you believe in as to what that looks like for you.
So since we're talking about worshiping, I'll do mine on the worshiping of saints and statues, or praying to saints. I know that's a really big one that people are always like, well, don't you guys pray to saints? And the answer is no. You don't pray to saints. You ask for intercession, and the simplest way to help people understand and correct their misconception on it is, when one Christian is sick or having a really hard time, and you run into a new Christian or another Christian or someone who's close to you and faith with you, what do you ask them?
Repeat the question one more time. I'm sorry. I zoned out for a
not
second
even paying
there.
attention to me.
No, I was reading something. I'm sorry.
If one Christian's having a really hard time and they run into another Christian, what's one thing they'll ask them?
I mean, do you need help? Like, I don't know what Christians ask.
Okay, I'm not
Christians.
not gonna lead the horse to water on this one. Will you pray for me?
Oh, will you? Okay, I'm sorry.
So it's kind of the same thing when you pray for intercession. It's like asking someone else to pray for you. Can you help me bring this prayer? Can you help me focus on this? Can you help me to get this message? So you're not praying to saints. You're not saying, Saint Michael, give me this power, or, give me this strength. You're asking, take this intercession. Can you please take my prayer to God? There's, I'm going to butcher the wording on this because I read it once and I really liked it, but essentially it's like, the saints who are in heaven speak the language better. So it's almost like going to an interpreter and saying, can you interpret this to God or to Jesus to help them understand what I'm asking for, is another way of putting it. So the same thing with the statues, it's a reminder. People get freaked out when they see, Catholic altars or all the statues or Mary or all the crucifixes, but it serves as a reminder, and it serves as a purpose within religion. And there's a difference between using a statue, say, for religious purpose and having a statue just for worship or looking at or things of that nature. So
right, I've never found that abnormal, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, because like I said, part of our family is Hispanic, and so statuary is very common. You always have candles, like we had an altar with the Virgin Mary on it, Virgin Mary candles, all the candles all the time, and statues, crosses, crucifixes, like the whole 9 yards. Like, so I never found it odd, because I thought that was the normal thing, but Lutherans aren't typically... Lutherans are pretty conservative in like their statuary. Like, you'll maybe see a cross here and there, or they'll have like a rosary or something, but I've never met a Lutheran that was really flamboyant about their religion, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying.
For us, one of the other big things too that kind of falls in line with like Wiccans worshiping the devil is also animal sacrifice. I've never met a pagan or a Wiccan that would ever condone anything like that, because they love animals so much. Like, Wicca is a nature-based religion, and so you're taught to respect all living things and to have reverence and honor for the things that you do to have to take the life of, like in order to survive, like your food and stuff, animals, which is why a lot of the times you'll actually see that a lot of pagans and Wiccans are vegan or vegetarians, because it falls in line with the belief system that we don't want to hurt any living thing. But so we're taught to respect everything, which includes you, your dog, your cactus. So your entire family are taught to respect it, to honor it. And, along the lines of sacrifice, blood sacrifice isn't typically a thing either. And of course, you're always going to find people who are outside of the norm who do it and then claim the title of Wicca, paganism, shaman, whatever. Like you do in any religion, really. But generally speaking, as a group, no, we don't do the blood stuff.
I can back that up, because as I was going through the forums, there was a couple different pagans that were asking others, should I drown? We talked about, should I drown this cat? Should I go do this because I had these visions or dreams? And the answers they got were a resounding no. Which also on that, Reddit. Someone was asking how they could safely remove a large amount of their blood because they wanted to make a Ouija board out of their blood.
Yeah.
And all I could say was that's
Maybe
not safe. If you
don't do that.
You have to ask the internet how to safely remove your blood, you're on the wrong path. Do not trust the internet, especially for that, please.
Yeah, that sounds like such a bad idea.
It does. And I know that the blood magic is a whole nother thing, and
definitely.
a whole sect of thing, but that doesn't mean you need to make a Ouija board out of your blood.
No. And I mean, there's other faiths and other paths that do dabble in that, but typically, no. That's icky. and like one of the other things, because like you'll see like in media portrayals and stuff, of like Sabrina, for example, that does a lot of stuff like that. Not usually. That's not a thing that is normal for a lot of people that I know in my circle. So, but like media portrayals in general, let's talk about that, because like both of us have
that was actually what I was
going
to jump into.
Because like I see Hollywood giving people the idea that you can like on Sabrina and stuff, you can like twitch your nose and like get your house cleaned, which I fucking wish was a thing. I really do, but it's not. And so like the things you see in Sabrina or Harry Potter or like any pagan witchy thing where you get to do all like this cool magic stuff, it's not like that at all. Like at all. It's more like asking your gods for guidance like you would ask your god for guidance, or asking the universe to help you make a decision or help guide you to a right decision, or things like that. It's really not.
Well, I know the other big one we've talked about magic, but the portrayal of magic that, when you cast a spell and you get these swirling gusts of wind and these Harry Potter like explosions around you.
I wish it was like that.
It's nothing like that.
No. No. It's very anticlimactic compared to what most people think it is. But I mean, Wicca and paganism in general, it's a very loving religion. We're very accepting, very woo-woo, very love everything, everybody, hippie. So, yeah, we're pretty chill people. We're pretty normal. So, but like Catholics. How are Catholics?
So you have like 3 things you get in Catholic portrayal in the media. You touched on the first one, which was exorcism, which if you haven't listened to it, our previous episode, our talk with Mr. Black, we went in depth into demonology and exorcism and all that. It very much is.
Listen. It's a little hard to listen to because our guy lives out in rural farm country, so you can't expect like the best phone quality there, so please forgive us on that.
Exorcisms are a very real thing, and it's a very serious thing, and it's not something the church likes to talk about. So you see basically every horror movie, right? You have to bring in a Catholic priest who's gonna perform the exorcism or become possessed or things like that. So you've got that side of it. If it's not that, then you've got the priest, the preacher out at summer school or taking care of kids at camp who's gonna inevitably molest them or hurt them or something like that. Okay, I'm gonna go off on a tangent rant here, but I'm so tired of this specific TV trope, and I see it across the board. It's it's in The Simpsons, it's in The Cleveland Show, it's in Family Guy, it's in American Dad. I'm a preacher, I'm a reverend, but I don't actually believe in God. I don't actually believe in people. I hate my job. I hate people. All I care about is money, sex, or whatever. It's such a tired trope, and that's what you see. And it's so far from real life. There are, and this is the third portrayal, so I'll touch on it, the mega churches, the not Catholic specific, but just Christian in general, the multi-millionaire flying around on a private jet, performing miracles, / going up and hitting people on the head, demons be gone, bam. and they're all just like any stereotype, right? They're all harmful.
Can that be your ultimate in the WWE game? Like, can that be your like audio clip? Because that would be fucking amazing.
And it couldn't be farther from the truth. There are Catholics with big families, but there's also Catholics with small families. There's Catholics who have big hearts. There are bad preachers out there. There are bad bishops out there.
There's
also a lot of people who have big hearts who are caring and with a lot of love. So all those stereotypes are harmful, but we're not going to change the world. We're not going to stop seeing those anytime soon because people love. In fact, they're remaking The Exorcist. We just found out. Coming in 2021, they're remaking the original Exorcist movie, so I guarantee you're going to see the Catholic preacher in there with his rosary and all that.
I'm waiting for them to remake The Exorcism of Emily Rose, too, and you're going to see something probably similar as well.
I'm only excited for it because I'm going to keep in contact with Mr. Black, and I'm hoping that we can maybe we'll do a movie night with him and stream it out to him and watch it in real time and get his live commentary on what they massacred and what they did correctly. So, media portrayals.
Well, so talk about what an average witch or an average Catholic looks like. Let's touch on that a little bit more. So, in either group, really, we all look like normal people. There's no right way to look. For pagans and Wiccans specifically, there's no right way to be a witch. Granted, there are days that I look stereotypically more witchy, when I'm in my black edgy clothing and wearing shiny rocks,
or when you went to the Mount Angel holy.
Oh my God, I was so embarrassed.
Holy grounds with the necromancer shirt on.
Necomancer, and I had forgotten because I don't really pay attention to what I wear out in public because I've gotten to an age where I just don't give a shit. I just wear what makes me comfortable and happy. And so we decided to do a spontaneous trip to the Mount Angel Abbey, and I was wearing that. I had forgotten, and I felt awful. And then I was like, oh, I can just take it off. And then I realized I was wearing like occulty stuff underneath it too. So
yeah, she took off the Necomancer cat raising the dead to pull out, the cultism one that has all like the devil symbols on it and the runes.
It was the Baba Yaga. Yeah. So there was no winning. Like Charlie said, like he found out that most pagan holidays, at least in the Norse section of it, we love our liquor. So he's like, I want to support her, so let's buy every single bottle of mead and booze ever possibly made, and it's an adorable thing. Yeah, so we're gonna get plastered. Move on. But everyone thinks like a Catholic looks like very stoic and is wearing a rosary and very conservative.
I mean, you're describing me at this point. but it's not.
I mean, like I said, there's some truth to the stereotype. I'm not saying that there's not. But
no, definitely. But there's just like any other religion, there's the Catholics who only go to church, when it's Easter or Christmas.
Our family was one of those. We only went to church on the major holidays.
But there's also the wear a business suit 6 days of the week. Wear your rosary, have 10 children. The stereotypes exist because there is some hint of truth to things, but your average Catholic would be indiscernible from any other person, right? Because they're just like you and me. They're just another person out there. They just might have a crucifix on them. That's usually how you can identify them.
Well, yeah, and you're getting your Saint Benedict ring too, yeah?
Yeah, well, I've got it. I've just got to...
Gotta get resized.
You gotta get resized. But yeah, I got my Saint Benedict ring and I wear my rosary. But I wear it under my shirt. There's people who wear their rosaries over their shirt. I'm not saying it's their intent, but it definitely feels like look at me, I'm religious. Mm-hmm. They're trying to display it for the world. I know it got really popular for a while with like gangsters to wear their rosaries and things like that. And that's kind of where you get into that realm of, are you wearing it because you're religious, or are you wearing it to show other people and it no longer has a religious meaning and now has become an object or an object of worship? And that's where that can come from, where people say, Catholics worship statues or objects because they display these things for other people to see. It's that virtue signaling, which it's bad across the board. It doesn't matter what's religion or politics, whatever it is. Virtue signaling does not help anyone.
Right. And like I don't typically wear pentagrams out in public at all, just because I live in a conservative part of the country, so I don't typically wear those out. I do wear crystals, like little pendulums and stuff, but like nothing that would be discernibly like #witchy, just because I don't advertising it really.
So I've got a question for you that's probably on your list, but every group has them, but pagans and Wiccas have them the worst, where everyone online seems to be a high priest or a high priestess. Mm-hmm. Everyone seems to be, the highest of their order or whatever. How does that work?
Well, I don't have a very great knowledge of how it is for Wicca. I do know that in order to be a high priest or a high priestess, you have to be incredibly educated. But basically, you have to go through trials and are like chosen. Like, I know that sounds like really like edgy, but I don't mean it to be. It's like anything else. You have to work your way up. You don't just suddenly become a high priest or a high priestess. You can't get your degree online. It's not that type of thing. You have to be.
I'm pretty sure you can find a place that'll sell you.
Oh yeah, you absolutely can. In the same way that you can become an ordained priest in 15 minutes online too. There's no weight to those things. They don't mean anything. You have to go through a series of channels in order to be someone of that caliber. Like my friend Sam is a high priestess, and she did all that. The couple that owns of Candlelight and Conjure over here in Salem, Navarre is a high priest.
I wonder if we could interview them.
Oh, I'm sure they would love to. Navarre and Karen, I think, are a little bit busy with some family stuff going on right now, but maybe I'll reach out to them and see if that's something they'd be comfortable doing. But like Navarre, I worked with him at the Oregon State Hospital, and he was to put it into terms, he was like the ordained minister, but like ordained high priest for the hospital that would come in and work with patients who were of that faith. Just like you would have a Catholic priest come in and work with those of Catholic faith. So, like I said, it's an organized religion. It's not just a bunch of hooey that people sell on Halloween as an aesthetic. It has roots, it has meaning, it has a lot of symbology and caretaking that goes into it, like any religion.
I so wanted to quote the Boondock Saints, like symbology. I'm sure the word you're looking for is symbolism. The symbolism. Sorry, I just watched that movie
So
and
extra.
I love the Boondock Saints, who are also Catholic, which is also
Irish Catholic. That's it. Like I said, there's different sections of Catholicism, right?
Well, okay, so I'm not greatly educated in this, but I've read some arguments that there is no Irish Catholic, Roman Catholic, that was devised
I've known Irish
as a
Catholics
way.
that would very much disagree with you.
It was a way to basically separate the community, like, oh, well, they're Roman Catholic, they're different than the other Catholics. I don't know anything about that, but I do know that when that movie came out, the Spirit Halloween and other places, you could get your official Boondock Saints rosaries and such, and it became.
Oh, I missed out on that.
You
I
can
love
still buy
the
them.
Boondock
They
Saints.
are,
So,
but that kind of falls into the right. Like, I'm sure some Wiccans and pagans get offended when there's a Halloween object that's
oh yeah,
a toy made of your
Pentagrams.
religion. I kind of felt the same
Pentagrams.
way when I saw that's not. It is a real rosary, but doesn't it cheapen it that it's
it absolutely
movie?
cheapens it. Yeah, no, yeah, pentagrams are the big one for us. People who are like new age centers that are selling crystals and sage and tarot cards and stuff like that. And I'm not saying that if you're not like a witch, you can't use like tarot or crystals or anything like that, but it cheapens it so fucking much. Or like people who people who sell things that are occult related or spiritually related. There's like a lot of ghost hunting stores will sell like runes and divination tools that are sacred to some cultures, and so that's incredibly offensive actually. And that just sell it along their ghost hunting equipment like it's a solve-all for spiritual warfare, and that's
I know
absolutely
one
not a thing.
website that I was looking at for ghost hunting stuff. They basically sold smudging kits. It was a bundle of herbs
and
that
that's
you
a
burn
huge
and,
no. Smudging, for people who are not aware, is a closed practice. You cannot do smudging. There's different sections of smoke cleansing. There's a smoke cleansing that Norse pagans do that I'm like, my mind is blanking on what it's called. It's a smoke cleansing, but smudging is a very spiritual, very sacred thing to those in Native American cultures, and we should never be doing smudging. We should research and do smoke cleansing that either is part of a practice that you have been initiated into, or that is something that is open. And I strongly encourage anyone who wants to do smoke cleansing to stay away from sage in general and move towards lavender or rosemary, because those aren't endangered plants and they are not used exclusively like Palo Santo or white sages by Native American cultures, if that makes sense.
That makes sense.
Okay. But we were talking about stereotypes that are true also, that we fulfill. And I can't say what's true for like other pagans or other Wiccans because like everyone's different. I love Halloween. I love dark stuff. I love occult stuff. I mean, I love plants, but they don't love me. So I love helping people. I'm not huge into crystals. I mean, I like shiny rocks, but like I'm not like a crystal will keep the doctor away type of person. Like that's not my thing. I'm not really into essential oils. I'm into herbs. I love candles. Like I'm a hoe for candles. I love incense. I'm drawn to animals. I mean, I don't know what other stereotypes I can think of that I fulfill too, but
would you dance naked in the woods under a full moon if no one was watching?
I wouldn't say no. That sounds so freeing, though.
She loves fire. You put her around a campfire.
I do love fire.
Yeah.
But in that hand, though, you would think that pagans wouldn't like fire, considering that we were burned at the stake once upon a time.
Oh, that reminds me, for some reason, not the burning at the stake, but
Okay.
People were talking about glamour spells, spells to change your appearance.
Yeah.
And it seemed very divided in the community whether that actually existed or not, because people were saying, well, if you could just change your appearance like that, then the witches would have changed the way they looked to avoid being burned at the stake. How do you feel about glamour spells?
Glamour spells to me are not something so much to change your appearance, but more to enhance your appearance like makeup does. if that makes sense. So it's all about intent. Like when you're putting your makeup on, for me, for example, like when I'm putting my blush on, there's intent in that, saying that I lost my train of thought. Just a ritual like anything else, where you're just like, I'm going to be beautiful today. I believe that I'm beautiful. And as I'm putting on this blush, I'm okay with who I am. I am pretty. It's stuff like that. And for me, it's not about changing your appearance. It's just self-love, I guess.
Does that mean like the liquid makeup is technically like a potion if it's made by...
I mean, if you want to put it down in its base form, I guess. Yeah. I suppose. So
Is my
I'm going to
coffee
get reamed
scrub
for this.
a potion?
Why are you being this way, Coop?
I'm just...
Are you genuinely asking?
I'm genuinely asking if it falls into that category, because potions, that's another stereotype, right? That witches have this giant cauldron and you pour a newt's eye in and
yeah, we don't.
you make these potions. But to my knowledge, just like some witches do spell work still,
There's
they
like
make potions still.
Well,
but it's,
I mean, yes, but it's not like I have newt, like a frog
actually,
type of shit. Like it's not.
I'm gonna actually You're
gonna actually me.
I heard, so this may or may not be true, this could just be an internet rumor, that the whole like Eye of Newt thing, it wasn't a literal Eye of a Newt, rather that's the name of a plant. So it was basically like an herbal mix. So they were putting in different
It
plants
could be.
that
I'm not an
had those
herbologist.
names.
I have no idea.
That's what I've heard, that's the misconception. They're actually using like bat parts and eyes of newts and stuff. That's all plants and put together into a medicine, basically an herbal medicine, or I guess a
Definitely could
holistic.
be. I'm not knocking it because I don't know.
No, I'm not trying to be a douche and make fun. I just legit like it kind of technically makes it a potion if it's a liquid. I just thought it was fun.
I mean, potions exist, but like instead of elixirs and things like that, they're in like tonics. Like all of these very apothecaric words, they're things to help people, like little immune boosters or things to help with depression that are natural supplements. Or like a lot of things that you'll see pagans do is make a linen spray with like lavender and amethyst in it, and that's because lavender helps promote sleep, right? You'll see a lot of that. And then like amethyst is known for like soothing and keeping away nightmares. So when you infuse the energy of that in with the lavender, a lot of the times you'll see that is like a pillow spray. So we make things like that fall into that category. And for me, and like a lot of the times you'll see kitchen witches like making hot chocolate, and that you do things a certain way before you consume it, and you can label that as a potion, I suppose, too. But it's really just hot chocolate with magical intent. I mean,
so I just Googled it. So body parts as plant parts. The eye can be a blossom or a seed. The tongue or teeth can be a petal or a leaf. And then the plant names as animals would just be common things like toad would be referred to as sage, or sage is referred to as toad. So when you say like it needs the eye of a toad, you could be saying the seed, a sage seed, or the blossom of a sage, or rat's blood could be the sap of a valerian plant. So not necessarily just throwing in random animals to make a stew. You're making an herbal thing, not a stew.
Yeah, it's all about them herbs. Holidays, I guess, are a big one. A lot of people don't realize that we have holidays. We have 8 major ones, and like depending on what pantheon and path that you follow, it'll be different for you. Because like I'm Norse pagan, so there's a whole slew of like additional things in addition to the 8 main holidays that I'm supposed to celebrate. But I don't celebrate all of them. I pretty much only do the ones that feel like a pull to. So traditionally for Wicca, you have Imbolc, which is also known as Candlemas. It's in February. There's lots of lights, lots of candles. It's very pretty. Imbolc is very white and very pretty. Ostara is also known as the spring equinox. It's in March. It's very similar to Easter, so lots of bright colored eggs and bunnies and spring, and it's very floral and happy and pastel. And then you'll have Beltane, which is May Day, lots of flowers. You have Lithia, which is midsummer and is all about fire. And then just recently we had Lammas, which is harvest holiday. It's all about bread. It's literally a bread holiday. It's all a bread. And then Mabon, which is coming up, is the autumn equinox. You're celebrating the beginning of fall, first harvest. And then the big one for us, for Wiccans, is Samhain, Halloween, as a lot of people know it as. It's pagan New Year. So really, instead of January, where the Western culture anyway seems to fall on as the beginning of the year is January, right? But for pagans, it's typically Halloween. It's pagan New Year. So, and then Yule. Personally, for me, as a Norse pagan, Yule is a huge one. So Yule is Christmas, but it doesn't fall on Christmas. It falls on December 21st, and it's like a 3 to 4 day thing. It's a huge deal, and you have like 4 days of just feasting and presents and just music and dance and food and lots of booze, lots and lots and lots of booze. Yule log, all this great stuff. So Samhain and Yule are my favorite holidays, and then Ostera, and Mabon and Midsummer. I don't really celebrate Beltane all that much. It's never really, I do pretty much every single one of them except for Beltane. May Day's not really one that I've ever vibed with. And then for you, I mean, you celebrate Easter, and then you have like Saints Days, right? But there's a fuck ton of saints.
So if you go to like the Catholic subreddit, they'll tell you every day what the feast is for that day, so you can pretty much feast year round for the feasts of different saints. Some people do those, they have like their patron saints, or a common one is saint for medical, for people who have sickness or in a hospital a lot, things like that may celebrate those, but it's no different than your regular quote Christian holidays, right? You get Easter, you got Christmas, the big ones, Valentine's Day.
Is Valentine's Day a thing that the Catholic Church actually celebrates? So I thought that was just like a commercial holiday.
It is a commercial holiday, but I'm sure that there's a feast on that day as well. So
I could have sworn you had another major one. You had Easter, you have Christmas, and then there's like one more. Well, like you do fasting during
there's like Lent, but that's not like a holiday. That's leading up to. Yeah, there's this is where I'm going to show that I'm not a good Catholic. I believe it's leading up to Easter. It's like 44 days. It starts like on Ash Wednesday and then goes all the way up to Easter. Is you typically give something up. So a lot of people fast and they give up. It's supposed to emulate like the suffering that Jesus went through, right? So you're supposed to suffer like Jesus, but it's hard to do in modern society. So a lot of people like give up soda or a favorite snack, or maybe give up TV, or it's not really comparable suffering, but it's the best we can do in our society. But I wouldn't call it a holiday. It's more like a reverence or remembrance.
Mm-hmm. You guys don't do anything for like New Year or anything like that?
Not that I've ever
Or like
heard
anything
of.
in like summer?
Now I've got to think of what I got to give up for Lent. I don't have a lot of stuff to give up anymore.
I know, like Charlie's basically as straight edge as it gets right now.
Gonna have to give up TV, or maybe if I give up internet, I won't be able to work. I'll have to, get a religious exemption for 2 months from work because I can't work from home because I gave up the internet.
Yeah, I don't know. I was thinking about it this last year, earlier this year when April rolled around, and I was like, I don't know what you can give up. Like, you literally don't have anything. And like, literally the only thing that Charlie does anymore is play video games and watch TV occasionally, and even those are going to get cut into with school starting tomorrow and everything else. So maybe you just take a month off of D&D or something. I don't know. I really don't know.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to put some thought into that.
I'm excited for like Mabon, because I haven't really gotten to celebrate it really big the last few years. And like I was explaining to Charlie, it's kind of comparable to Thanksgiving. Like there's a lot of food on Mabon, and then Samhain rolls around and we get to have dumb suppers. Like we love to eat. Pagans love to eat. They love their feast days. Lots of feasts, lots of booze. I can't think of anything else. Like we have like our weddings. Like I've never been to a traditional Catholic wedding, so I have no idea what that looks like. And then like pagan weddings are different depending on what religion you're on too. Like I've always been interested in hand fasting personally. And we did something similar to that for ours, but do Catholics have like special wedding things?
There's a lot that goes into the Catholic weddings because the Catholics as a whole generally don't believe in divorce. You know, you're in it for life. And there are some exceptions for that in a lot of things. And there's also a lot of toxicity around that where people feel alienated from the church or from certain flocks because they feel so stigmatized for having a divorce. And that's a whole political side of everything. But I know that typically, we even went through this a little bit. If we wanted to get married to that church in Silverton, they said that we would have had to gone through like 3 months of couples counseling, couples therapy through the church in order so that when they bless the marriage, that there's not, it doesn't end in divorce, basically, is the idea. So
why didn't we do that? I don't remember why we didn't.
Well, there's a lot that kind of went into it, but basically every time we went to get married, we decided something else, was, I won't say more important, but it was like, we need to move out of your mom's house. And then it was like, okay, well, we need to get this stuff settled first. Let's buy a house first. And then eventually it's just like, we don't have an excuse anymore. Let's go do it. And so we just went and got,
it wasn't really that big a deal to me. It's because we'd lived together for so long at that point, and like, it was just a piece of paper. Like, it didn't really change anything other than my last name and my taxes. Like, other than that, it really wasn't, I didn't know I wasn't going anywhere. Yeah. So that, it never lined up to do that. And it wasn't even something that would have been needed because what we've learned about each other, and that I don't think after living together for so long that there would be anything we would have. Yeah, I'm trying to think of what I could have learned, but I think you learn all that through patience and practice, really. I don't know how you can learn that in a church office, but I also know there's some other little things, like there's a special mass, I think, for Catholic weddings and things. So there's a lot of stuff that I don't know because I've never been a part of a Catholic wedding and all of that. So I'm sure there's a lot of little things that are nuanced about the wedding that you have to kind of be there to experience and know. Liquor is very much a part of all of our celebrations. Weddings are not excluded. So I can't really think of anything else. I know that there's like tons of stereotypes for both of ours, but these were like the major ones that I knew for myself personally. And like I reached my feelers out on social media to see if I could get anything that I hadn't already thought of. But these are the major ones for me. And I don't know if there's anything left for you that you wanted to cover, or no. I mean, there's a whole book on it. I'm sure there's got to be one for Wicca too, but let me grab it here. If you want to actually like dig into it for whatever reason you're feeling a call to Catholicism, there's a book called The Essential Catholic Survival Guide. My dad gave it to me, and it's the staff at Catholic Answers, which is like a huge forum that's very, very high up, very well regarded, put together this book that kind of goes through dispelling the stereotypes, talking about purgatory, morality, Copernicus, Galileo, that sort of controversy, saint worship, relics, authority of the church, and things like that. So if you're actually interested in it, that book is a good resource to learn from. There's also a book called Why We Are Catholic that makes a very compelling and good argument. So those are the resources I direct you to if you're interested in learning more. I wish I could offer a really good roundabout way as far as reading and links and stuff as well. But Wicca is such a vast fucking sea of stuff. And I know it's overwhelming when coming into it for the first time and trying to find what shoe fits. And really all I can say is pick up every book you can find, read every blog you can read, watch every YouTube video you can watch, and just continually ask questions and continually push yourself to learn something new, because there's just so much out there, like literally so much. And it's why it took me so long to find out what worked for me, is just because that's what you had to do. You had to sift through everything to see what worked for you. I will say that while Reddit can be a very good place for information, I would not recommend it for this. No, I mean, you can source some answers, but like I said, one of the biggest problems is you'll put a question out there and you'll get a million different answers, and of course no one cites sources or anything like that. Right, and Tumblr is hit or miss. I don't know why you'd be searching for Wicca stuff on Pinterest, but there's tags on there for it. Instagram can be hit or miss. It's really hard to find good sources for information because there's only like a few people that basically run the book market as far as Wicca and paganism go. Llewellyn is a big name that you'll probably see a lot. But if you have general questions, like if you have kind of an idea of what you like, and you shoot us an email, I might be able to direct you into a more directionalized direction because it's really hard for me to answer a question that's so broad. So you kind of have to know what you're feeling so I can kind of give you a better idea of what you might look into. I think that's all we have for tonight. We have an interview coming up next week with someone who had a Bigfoot encounter. It's a pretty interesting story. I hope you guys like it. We also have our Bigfoot pins that came in, so we'll be listing those on our website, which is lonelyghostcottage.com. Be under the accessories tab. I have not figured out how to price them yet, but those will be available soon.
I don't know if we want to tack on this episode. The next episode, we did revisit the haunted Lafayette Cemetery number 3 that we talked about previously.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
So I don't know if that's this episode or if
well,
you
no,
want to
let's
keep this
just
one
go ahead and get it out of the way now, because like it's not really a whole lot of information to really make it into any other episode. So yeah, let's talk about our Dayton trip.
No, so we went back. It was a much more pleasant experience that I had someone with me. I wasn't as jumpy, but even you comment on this, that like the video I took all felt like it was really dense forest and you couldn't see in, and then when we were there it was much more open. So I don't know if it was just like the lighting was different or it was a sunnier day or what, but
I couldn't tell you.
It definitely felt a lot better there. You thought you saw something, but it turned out to be a car. We went back and checked the video, so that was disappointing.
Yeah, that...
You still got feelings there, but it was a very unwelcoming feeling. Not like we're going to kill you, but like, hey, we're done with people. Please leave.
Just go. Just get out of here, man. Because like the two notable things that I took from that trip was I feel that at some point that someone had driven up to, because I mean the driveway is blocked off now, but I would say about 80 to 90% of that graveyard has all of its tombstones broken or in pieces. And a lot of that stuff is heavy blocks of concrete. Like it isn't just the wind blowing that over. That was done by force. And it was really disheartening to see. And there were only 4 graves that had any flowers on them because they were more recent. But the rest of that yard is just... All I could feel when going in there was anger and grief and just exhaustion. I will say though, when I was going around trying to see what was going on there to see if I could validate anything that Charlie had experienced, I saw this SUV because the Masonic Cemetery up in Lafayette, it's up on a hill that overlooks some farmland and a road, and they had come around a corner, and I was looking at this headstone, and they were driving normal speed, and then they saw me peeking up through the trees, and they saw me, and I'm not entirely sure what they thought, but they slowed down like really slow, trying to figure out like what the heck was going on. So like I don't know if they thought like if I was a dead person or if they thought that I was like vandalizing or what they thought, but it was funny because I don't know, I think I scared them honestly, because like say they were going like 40 miles an hour up until the point they saw me, they slowed down to like 10 miles an hour and inched along for a minute, and then they just like shot up to 100 and like bolted out of there. So I don't know what happened there. But so we left there, nothing too eventful, and then we drove down to Odell with the Ebenezer Chapel. And we had a couple interesting experiences there. It has the old abandoned chapel on it, and
yeah, it was a great place.
Beautiful, really.
The cemetery wasn't like a cemetery in the sense of this is laid out. It was like a part of the forest, which was really cool.
Yeah, it didn't really have rhyme or reason to it. It just was and is, and it was really neat. Nothing too eventful there, really, but it's a gorgeous piece of property. It's a nice drive. We haven't really had anything eventful happen for a while, though I will say we've had a couple scares in the house. The one the most recently was the night before last. I had gotten back up because I couldn't sleep, and it was like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. I was getting ready to head out of the office because I was done working for the night, and I heard a woman in the hallway outside of the office door. Scared the absolute bejesus out of me because I thought someone had broken in, and I think it's hilarious that I'm more scared of alive people than the dead ones, because it sounded like someone was asking like if anyone was there, and I was like, yeah, I am very much here and very much not wearing pants, and I was very scared. So I didn't really know what to do because I was just kind of in a state of shock because I never like, we live in a bad part of town, so like inevitably I feel like we're gonna have an experience like that, but I didn't think it was gonna be today. Not that you can count on whatever day that'll be, but I heard that our dog Ozzy barking, and I was like, nope, I've got to go rescue him, pants or not. And I just was like, YOLO. And there was nobody there though, and so I was like, well, I was gonna go back to sleep, but now I can't. So I just laid in bed till like 6 o'clock in the morning and played Animal Crossing. I feel we had something else happen, but I don't remember it.
We had the kitties phasing through walls.
How did that happen? Let me try to recall that memory. Okay, so our cat has not been sleeping with us in the bedroom for like the last 3 weeks to a month because she's been an annoying little furry butt face, and so she hasn't been sleeping in the room with us. We have a pretty standardized routine that we don't really deviate from. So close the bedroom door, we lock it, we go to sleep, and that's that. And I'd gone to bed late that night, and she wasn't in there, because if she was in there you would know it, because she is like all over you all the time, super annoying. I woke up in the middle of the night to feeling her like pounce on me, and I was really confused and startled, because I was like, I thought maybe Charlie had gotten up to use the restroom, and he was right next to me, so I was like, well, maybe he got up and I didn't feel him get up, and he just didn't shut the door all the way, which does happen sometimes. I got up because I needed to go use the restroom, and I was like, all right, well, I'll get the cat out of here while I'm at it. And then I went to go open the door, and it was bolted shut. Like, that wasn't super out of the ordinary. And I was like, well, maybe, because like, how could she be in there if you had left the door open, right? So that didn't really make sense to me, but I was like, well, maybe, I don't know, maybe she got in there and we didn't feel her for the first like 5 hours, and then she decided to pounce us, which is really not something that's ordinary, but maybe, you know, very not likely, but maybe. I get her out, I do my thing, and then I went and go get some water. I heard our dog, except, and the weird thing wasn't that I heard him, but that I heard him where he wasn't supposed to be. So he's kenneled at night. Like I said, same routine, same every night. We always lock it, latch it, check it. So, and there's literally no way for him to get out of there at night because we secure him in there. And he likes to sleep like a bird. So we have a heavy blanket over his kennel because he feels safer that way. If he was to have pushed out of the kennel, that would have been all in a disarray, and the kennel door would have been open. This was not the case. The kennel was still locked. The blanket was still in place, and the door was closed. Ozzy was not in it. Ozzy was in the kitchen getting into the garbage, having a grand old time. And this is another one of those circumstances where had he been out for those 5 hours that we were asleep, he would have woken us up, because he's not exactly quiet. He doesn't exactly get along with Gracie, our cat. So immediately when I realized where he was, because I heard him like snuffing around like he does, and it just wasn't right. It wasn't in the kennel where it was coming from the kitchen. And I was tripping out because like it already had like Gracie phasing through the wall. And so I get him, I pick him up, and then immediately I got scared because I thought, okay, well, if he was out, then Gracie was out at some point also, and they may have gotten into a fight, and he may have gotten his eyes scratched up, which is a huge problem for pugs because they can get ulcers. And so I picked him up, and I was like holding him up in front of me, kind of like Rafiki and Simba. And I was looking at him, and he was just like really chill and really limp, which if you know our dog, those are two things that are very much not normal. He's a very hyperactive Tasmanian devil dog. Like, he is constantly go, 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 go. He does not limp. He just was like really sleepy and was just like looking at me like, it's chill, mom, like you're freaking out over nothing. He was fine, completely fine. And so I was like, all right, buddy, well, we're gonna go back to bed because it's 3 o'clock in the morning. So I put him in bed, and then he immediately just like is out, just passes out and starts snoring. And that dog does not fall asleep instantly. He just doesn't, because he's just like, oh, people time, people, I need people. And I was like, okay, that's really weird also. And then I noticed a light across our neighbor's way that flashed on. And like, as I thought about it more, I was talking to my mom about it, and it looked like an alarm clock flashing, like when it's going off, except it only did it once. And there were no cars on the road. There was no bicyclists. There was nothing. They didn't have lights on because it was like 2:40, 2:50, and it would have been like 3 at that point in the morning, the middle of the night. And I was like, that's really weird. Maybe I just saw something. I don't know. I waited for it to happen again. It didn't happen. And then I went to get my water. I went and worked a little bit, and then I came back out to check on Ozzy, and then I saw the light again, but it only happened once, and then I couldn't get it to happen again. And I was just like, it's bizarre. Like, so many things were happening that were bizarre. And so I ended up going to bed, couldn't sleep, and then I basically laid in bed waiting for Charlie to wake up, and I was like, dude, did you leave the door open last night? Did you go get up during the night? And he's like, no. And because, like, normally I feel him get up, and I didn't that night. And so I was, like, trying to check my boxes, and you said you didn't get up.
I did not, no.
So
yeah, Kitty's phasing through walls. We had a little bit of a run-in with a potential fairy, maybe. I don't know. We're still talking that one out. So it's been a...
But you said also that you were in the bathroom and the toilet flushed by itself?
Yeah, the water turned on and then flushed by itself, so...
I feel like we had a couple other things happen too, but I don't remember what they were.
Yeah,
it was just a lot
It's one of those things
that
where
day.
it's happened so much that it all starts to run together.
Yeah, it was busy that day. I don't know. But as far as ghosty stuff, that's what we've been up to. Other than that, we've been really busy. Just getting, like, Charlie's prepping for school. He's got jury duty. I've coming to the end of, like, a huge convention and trying to get orders shipped out and prepped for Halloween and just all kinds of busy. So, like I said, next week you'll have an interview with a gentleman who was in the Army. He had a Bigfoot encounter here in Oregon, spoke with the BFO, and all kinds of stuff. So it's pretty interesting. You'll listen to that next week. And I think that's all we got for you tonight.
That's good. We're right at almost an hour and a half. So
yeah, we'll leave you guys on to have a good night. We hope you have a great week. Happy Tuesday. Happy September 1st. We're a couple months closer to Halloween. Hope everyone is safe and happy and healthy. All right, have a good night, everybody. Stay spooky.
stay safe.